Yes, I'm with you. I think Heinz tomato soup these days is very disappointing.
Really poor.
Yeah, it is. I
Really
mean,
poor.
like I say, that Newgate tomato soup you can get in Lidl, absolutely
So,
top dollar.
somebody recommended that to me about eight
Yeah, it was
months
me.
ago.
It
Ah,
was
it was
me.
you.
Yeah.
And said this is much better than Heinz. And I said that's just preposterous
I
nonsense
know.
because
I
it's about
I
half
would
the price.
and I would never eat anything other than Heinz tomato soup. So,
But
anyway, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Interesting Soup Company tonight. We thought
indeed,
we'd branch
I
out from.
recommend our recommendation for our final news show of the year: Newgate tomato
Yeah,
soup.
Lidl, Newgate tomato soup. Really, really.
Very,
Honestly, I'm a
very good.
Heinz snob. I tried it once, and it was like, this is actually better than Heinz tomato soup.
Much,
Anyway,
much better.
right, we have a packed show tonight, and I'm not kidding. It's so packed, we've actually got to the limit of how many images we can upload in one go. So what we're going to have to do is as Spencer is talking about something else halfway through the show, I'm going to have to go back, delete images, and upload the rest. So never mind. I've been
Which is
at
all
this.
nerve-wracking that I'm going to be left on my own while
No,
you
I'll be here
bug
nodding.
off.
I'll be here nodding like this and whatever. Honestly, folks, I've been at this since 9 o'clock this morning, photographing kits, then trying to color correct some of them, formatting them, doing the links. In fact, I haven't even finished doing the links for the show, so I should do those afterwards. And that's it. We run out of time. So, shall we crack on with? We'll do all the mince pie stuff midweek because we do have a lot to get through tonight. We really
Indeed.
do. So we will crack on tonight with, first on the list is a new company, the rather curiously titled 1602 or 16.02, however you want to pronounce that. That is a company which is the brainchild of Mr. Michael Boldoveg, who he's done a lot of resin bits and pieces in the past, but this is the first injection molded kit that he's produced under 1602. We'll call them 1602, so I apologise if we're getting the name wrong. And their first kit is this. It's a 5.5 centimetre flak Gerhardt 5.8. Now, this is one of those paper projects that the Germans were working on towards the end of the war. This did actually exist, unlike a lot of these things you're seeing, like walking tanks and land cruisers and all that kind of thing. This thing did actually exist, and it was being worked on by the Krupp Works, but it never actually got anywhere. There were a lot of problems with it, and it kind of sauntered through to about February 1945, but there's no evidence that this was ever actually used in action. But we have a 35th scale kit here from 1602, and it is actually rather nice. We were given this one by the Frew Model Centre, so thanks to the good people there. We will be building this in the new year, so we will give you a much more thorough assessment. But what you get is, well, you get a metal barrel and some photo etched bits. There's a couple of sprues that are repeated, mostly for the smaller details. And as you can see, it's not overly complex in terms of construction and other aspects of it. Its detail is very crisp. I don't think it's going to set new standards for, kind of complexity of detail, but what you have here is nicely done. The sprue attachment points are very fine. The detail is very crisp. Sink marks and ejection pin marks are absolutely at a minimum. And I think this is one of those projects you could probably polish this off in the space of a weekend. Although I think this retails for around about the £29 mark. You probably wouldn't want to, because that would be rather kind of rushing through your investment. But it's quite a large model as well, but it's an interesting project. And yeah, I'm going to be building one of these in the new year. I'm probably going to build it in just the overall sand colour, but there is a certain amount of leeway to be imaginative with schemes, and certainly like that one in the middle to do large chunks of it in red primer. But like I say, this is more a preview of what you get in the box, but we will definitely be building this one in the new year. And it does, as befits the interesting modelling company, this does look interesting. So, good start. Good start.
I like the look of this, actually. I'm already seeing a whole bunch of these mounted on Tiger 2 chassis. I can see that as being a what if target to those that are interested in those kind of things. I have to say, I really like the box art version. I think that's really nice, and also I like the way it's it appears to be painted on there. I think that's a really nice, kind of a nice idea for a diorama. As well.
You know what? Do you know what? I've just had an idea. Hold on, lads. I got an idea, because actually, a diorama, and I am probably read your mind here, is a diorama of a corner of a kind of slightly damaged factory corner with bits of plaster and lath and timbers everywhere. And there, underneath, or kind of covered in dust and detritus, is a partially painted one of these with a kind of like a US soldier with a clipboard.
Yeah, that's all you need. Yeah. Just a corner of a building. I mean, that's mini art heaven right there.
I think, folks, I might have just talked myself into doing a little diorama next year.
Little building, diorama, mini art, bits and pieces. I like the look of this. I hadn't seen this before.
I'm not a big fan of this kind of like, kind of like late war 1946 kind of stuff. But this, as I say, I can see how that can actually be incorporated into quite a plausible diorama. So,
yes. Yeah. Interesting name for a company as well. Not so sure about that at the moment, whether or not that would sort of stick in your mind too much. 16th of February. But I like the look of the first release, and the guys behind this of Solid Scale, I think it is, isn't it? From what I can see on there, Solid Scale have got quite a reputation within the industry for producing some quite nice stuff at the moment as well, within that sort of Second World War German sphere of interest. So I wasn't surprised to see that this was quite a nice kit. And looking forward to seeing what you managed to turn out with this thing. It'll be it's quite interesting.
Yeah, and like I say, big thanks to Frew Model Centre, who are acting actually as the UK distributors for this as well. So there will be links going up after the show. So follow on there. Follow them on Facebook as well. Give them a like. But I think that's a good start by 16th of February. Should we call them 16th of Feb?
Yeah, we'll call them 16th of Feb until we're told what 1602 relates to, because there must be something. It must be related to something.
2 minutes past 4. I don't know.
16. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. If anybody's watching this that knows what that's all about, please let us know, because we're easily confused
because we have finally solved the mystery of, ready? Drum roll, because you're the drummer. Right that. Glenfiddich. You literally got to scouse the end of it. So it's like it's Glenfiddich, innit?
All right. So, and after yesterday's resounding result against Crystal Palace, we're more than happy to scouse absolutely everything at the moment.
Welcome to Match of the Day Extra. Right. So let's shall we crack on? Talking of things red, shall we crack on with the next one?
We will, but before I do that, if you don't mind a little bit of self-indulgence,
there we go.
Changing the script.
There we go.
I think perhaps we need to mention Edward.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we'll do that right now before we sort of forget and everything. From everybody at the Interesting Modelling Co., all of the team that work on all of this and everything, we really would like to send our best regards to Edward. It sounds like they've had a terrible weekend with the warehouse and all of the stock going up in flames yesterday. Fortunately, nobody was hurt from what we can read. There haven't been any injuries or anything like that. It really is the building and the stock. So that's a plus point from what was a terrible story. But to see those photographs and know that this company has lost so much of its inventory. It looks like the building only contained the store, the warehousing. So all of the manufacturing and all of the design areas were in a completely separate site. So there was none of that lost. None of the production facilities were lost or anything like that. That seems almost like I'm doing down the story as if it wasn't a big thing. It was a massive loss to this company. So, and I think it's going to be a while before they can get their inventory back up to speed. So from everybody here, we'd like to offer everybody over in Edward, we're massive fans of the Edward company right across the board for everything that they do, and we use a lot of their products. So all the very best to the guys over there, and we hope you can pick yourself up.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving away from Edward, we come to Zvezda, who've now released their Sukhoi Su-57, or as it was known, the Pakfar. This is their fifth generation, Sukhoi's fifth generation fighter plane, and in our opinion, is the best looking of all of the current crop of modern fighters from that sort of heady group. You can see here it is a beautiful design. Whichever way you look at it, it just looks glorious. It's kind of everything the F-22 isn't really. It's just glorious from start to finish. Everything is smooth. It blends in well, and also the aircraft has carried some startling color schemes as well, whereas the F-22 has carried none other than just overall grey. This thing has carried lots of camouflage schemes that sort of set it apart. Now, we do have one of these kits, and we do. And John will know a little bit more about this. So I'm only going on what I can see from the pictures that have been gone. But there are a number of things that stand out for me within this package, which I'm sort of looking at and being open to seeing how it looks once it's in the flash. Certainly from an accuracy point of view, it certainly looks like the real thing, whereas some of the previous releases of this aircraft have been more or less accurate, but they've had issues with shape across the airframe. This thing doesn't look like it's suffering from any of those problems. It looks like this is a pretty accurate reproduction, as you would imagine from a company in that part of the world reproducing an aircraft from Sukhoi. It's not unusual to do that. It levels of detail on this. The airframe itself looks to be really, really nice, but there are things that have sort of stood out for me and makes me wonder whether or not they were struggling slightly with information on what is still presumably a pretty secret project, and their access to it might have been difficult. One of those areas that you can see in the photographs is the main undercarriage bays, and the undercarriage itself looks to kind of be simplified. So whether or not that's going to be a bit of a deal breaker for you, don't really know. But that's certainly something. Intakes as well look like they're pretty kind of simple in their approach. Can't tell anything about the cockpit from this, but I'm imagining the cockpit in a Su-57 is pretty pared back anyway, given what it is. Well, there you go.
They have provided you with the basic tub, and everything else from that point onwards is decals. Same with the instrument panel, and the seat as well is.
That's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
I mean, I think straightforward is a good word for that. Actually, it's no frills. There it is.
It's not. There isn't. How can I put this delicately? There's no sort of pretensions to absolute accuracy within this cockpit. I'm going back to my point of a few minutes ago. This thing is still presumably restricted in terms of what can and can't be reproduced on this aircraft. So although they seem to have everything on the outside looking pretty good and looking the way you would expect from a Zvezda 2020 kit, the interior sections are a little bit woolly and probably could do with a little bit of help to try and lift them up slightly. Plenty of weapons in this thing, from what I can see of the pictures, plus all the pylons, that kind of thing. So also one area that does look to be quite impressive on this, and continues from the way that Zvezda have approached other similar kits is the way that they've dealt with the panel lines. This looks really sharp.
Mm-hmm.
The molding quality on this looks sharp. Zero flash, as you would imagine, zero imperfections. Panel lines are really sharp. Draft angles look like they're almost vertical as well, which is really impressive. So this is going to build up into a nice model. People have been wanting a 48 scale kit of this aircraft for a while. So to finally see, it's been available in 72nd for quite a while now, but to see this in 48 scale is great. That pilot is amazing.
Yep,
I have to say.
So do you know what the good news is? Is because that's on a duplicate sprue. Means you get an extra pilot.
You get two of them. Fabulous. And then moving away from the actual plastic parts, the decal sheet offers a handful of different schemes. There's 3 from what I can see: 509, 511, and 01 on there. Not sure of the validity of those code numbers. I've read somewhere, and it's stuck in my head, and I couldn't find it to confirm that I think 01 in particular might not be an actual aircraft. It might be something that's kind of been slightly made up. One thing that you are going to have to think about when you do this is if you're creating that color scheme, you're going to have to mask that all off. So there's going to be an awful lot of preparation to try and create that pattern. There are simpler color schemes for this aircraft, so you could maybe go down that route and not do one of these pixelated schemes. But I can't help thinking that it would definitely be worth having a crack at doing one of these. Maybe even scanning up the drawing and either using that as your guide to create bigger masks, or at least lay out where the castellations are on the edges of the scheme. So that's going to be a really difficult element. Building this kit is going to be a piece of cake. It's literally going to be a walk in the park. No more than a weekend's job putting this thing together. Painting it, yeah, that's going to be where the real time is taken up with this. But either way, this is a very welcome release, and it's going to sit alongside other kits that we've seen of these current generations of aircraft. F-22, F-35, YF-23 also probably fits within that kind of family of this sort of jet. So we're really looking forward to this. I'm sure that John has got it in hand to fire this thing out, and so we can have a closer and more detailed look at this, which is what we're planning on doing at some point in the new year. Obviously, this is our last show of the year, so we're not going to be doing anything now until, I don't know, somewhere around about the 10th or something of January. So
yeah, apart from our midweek social next week, this is our final.
Yes, as our news event. So yeah, so that's Vesda's brand new 48 scale SU-57, which is now on sale.
And I'm just checking, on the Jadlan website. They've got it down as around the £36 mark, which is not bad, because I'll tell you something, the box is like that. It's huge. Yeah. And when I actually opened up this afternoon to photograph it, yeah, that not only is that impressive, but that is just a big slab of plastic. It honestly is. And when I looked at it, I thought, well, that's going to speed things up a bit. But actually, there are still quite a few detail parts, weapons and pylons and bits and pieces. So it's still going to be a little bit involved.
Yeah.
But the detail on it is superb, and it is just the most gorgeous I think it's the most gorgeous aircraft flying at the moment. It really is. It's a fantastic looking machine.
You seem to have forgotten the F-15.
No, I haven't forgotten it. I just completely kind of overtook it and left it as a dot in the mirror.
We'll have Mr. Drew Manton Esquire on before we know it, suggesting Mirage F1s as well. So.
Steve Moore says, sorry, was that £36? Yeah, around the £36 mark, Steve, for UK retail, a UK price. So, and Dave says, no sinkage on that side of mould. No, honestly, the pictures will be going up after the show ish. Just ran out of time, so you can all have a look at them. But it is a big old aeroplane. Big, I think up warrants a full 100% Sid James. Whoa, I like that aeroplane.
We all love it, don't we? We genuinely love it, and you're right about the size of this thing as well. This is like flanker size.
It is, yeah.
Big. It is a big aeroplane.
Steve Moss says YF-23 more beautiful. I'm not going to argue with you there, Steve, but unfortunately, the YF-23 not an operational aeroplane these days.
Yeah, and arguably the YF-23 is the best looking.
The better aeroplane, yeah, the better aeroplane of the two. Anyway, no, we won't go over that anymore. So I think we're better off. We're talking about soup, quite frankly.
I think we should move on.
I think we should move on. Right. Good response to this on the Facebook page over the weekend, because I had the chance to try out some paints from Scale Modeler Supply. Hang about, let's just get the comments off for a moment. Comments off. There we go. The Scale Modeler Supply, an Australian company. I've heard a lot about their paints, but never had the opportunity to try them. Again, they were going to be one of these things that I was hoping to see at one of the model shows this year and bag some. Again, very grateful to Free Model Centre, who gave us some paints to try out. They are acting as the UK distributor for these. So I selected a selection of, but essentially ones that I can pretty much use immediately on current and ongoing projects. So over the weekend, you're going to love this. Finally, hurrah! Look, I actually got round to painting the Semavente. Now the base yellow there is still the Tamiya TS3 straight from the spray can, but then the reds and the red and the green, I went in there with the SMS paints, and then just tidied up the areas in between with just some of the Tamiya sand again. I have to say, I love them. They airbrush beautifully. They are completely compatible with Tamiya thinners and Mr. Colour thinners. I think the only thing I did was to drop a ball bearing into the the jars, just to kind of agitate everything up a bit more. And when it came to spraying really fine lines, I did thin them down a bit. I actually thinned them with the Mr. Colour Rapid Thinner, but they worked absolutely fine. And these are, I think they're let me just check to see my notes here. They are 30ml bottles. So you're getting a fair amount of paint in there. I tried another couple of the colours this afternoon very, very quickly. Unfortunately, the photographs aren't brilliant because it's just run out of time. But I have been trying out their dark green and their dark earth, and I like the dark earth. It's got a nice desaturated colour to it, which kind of vies with how I interpret dark earth. They don't appear to do an RAF dark green. The one that they recommend in most of their sets is actually forest green. Although, if they do have a dark green and I've somehow missed it, I apologise in advance. So I selected one of those to give that a try. It's not too bad. I prefer my dark greens to be a little bit more on the olive side and a little bit less saturated. This, to a certain extent, this kind of reminds me of old Humbrol 30 dark green, which always had that slightly cold cast to it. But it's not, it's not kind of like out of the zone, I think is a good way of putting it, because I've seen so many paints out there which try to be dark green and dark earth, and they're all over the place. I'm not going to name anybody in particular, but no, I'm sorry, Vallejo, their dark green, their dark earth is just, the contrast and the colours are just completely wrong. I also tried out the sky as well. The sky, you can see, is on the right-hand side of the wing there. The other side are some other ones that I kind of used on this mule some time back. As you can see, it has a greenish cast, but it's quite desaturated, more towards the grey end, which to me is what sky should look like, to my perceptions anyway. I think a lot of people tend to use Tamiya Sky out of the bottle, and the Tamiya Sky is just too green. It's, it's kind of that, really. So I'm really, really impressed with these paints. I will be putting them through their paces much more over the next few months, because one of the ones I did get was the Protective 4BO, which, because I've got a couple of those little Zvezda 72nd scale armor kits to build, that will be perfect for that. And I also picked up the German Sand Yellow, because I've got what have I got? I've got the Zvezda Jagdpanther to build, so the little snap together one. So again, these are all colours that will be put directly into operation. But in terms of performance, absolutely fine, really, really fine. And in fact, on the Spitfire, sorry, I've got somebody messaging me at the moment. Let's just turn the phone off. That's better. I just say to people, I'm broadcasting it this evening, and they start messaging me. So
it's not me.
It's not. Bear with me, Spence. You're going to have to carry on for a second whilst I deal with this. So can you dive on to the?
We'll jump into move on to Tamiya, away from these SMS paints, and we'll go on to the Lotus Europa Special. You may remember that we had a look at this kit over the last, I think it was probably about a month ago now, 5-6 weeks ago, something like that. So we had a look at this Lotus Europa 24 scale. Anybody that's seen this car, it is beautiful to look at, and we now have the kit to hand. I believe that John has now got a sample of this kit from the hobby company, so we will have one of these to hand to have a closer look at this. Just to recap on this, you can see here it is a beautiful car. It really does look the business. This is not a curbside kit. It offers not only the full kit, it offers the hello, tap tap tap. It offers not only the full body kit, but there's also an engine in there to go with the chassis as well. And there are quite a lot of options that go with this kit too. So that, which is really nice. It's not brand new. This is a reissue, but it is one of, to me, it's kind of reworkings of an older kit, as we mentioned when we first took a look at this. So they've offered certain things within it, which will sort of update it. And they include photo etch. There's some photo etch details in this. You get a choice of different wheels for this. You get 8-spoke and Watanabe wheels on this. You get the seat straps, which you can see here, which go with the buckles, which you can also see on the photo etch there. Nice rubber tires. There's a little sheet of sticky metallic badges that go around the car as well, which adds a nice touch. Chrome sprue here for wheels, bumpers, trim, that kind of thing. And then there's a full decal sheet in this kit that will allow you to trim 3 different versions should you choose to do those. And in the kit, the color schemes are white, black and red. And I think I mentioned last time, I quite like the idea of the white one. I think it looks smart in white. There's something about the car and the lines with the white and the what looks to be gold piping on this. Lotus racing cars were often black with yellow trim, so that might be something as well that tips your hat to the Formula One racing cars too. Really looking forward to getting this. We've had one given to us from the hobby company for us to build. So much like the Honda S600 that I finished off 3-4 months ago, I will be building this and doing this as a complete project. Haven't really decided what I'm going to do with it yet, but I have an idea for maybe one of these parked outside a house somewhere and that kind of thing. Maybe about to be being washed with a bucket and all of that. I'm sort of thinking about that. It's a beautiful car. It's going to be a beautiful model. And thanks to the sort of the additions, it's been kind of glossed up for 2020 as well. I don't think the price on this kit's that high either, given the spec that you get with this and the additions, which makes it something that will appeal to modelers who are on a sort of a reasonable budget as well. And I think that's great. I love the idea of the seatbelts. I think that's really nice, and that will allow plenty to be added inside. So once with the kind of the interior on display, you'll be able to get plenty of features in. So that's Tamiya's Lotus Europa Special, a special kit of a special car, and it is now available. We have a sample to hand, so we look forward to putting that one together.
I've got it up here around about £33.95, so it's going to be hovering around the kind of 33, 34 pound mark.
I think that's excellent value for money for this kit.
I think when you add up the cost these days of aftermarket photo etch, and certainly something like all those seat belts, I think you're getting good value for money there.
Yeah,
right. To finish off what I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted. Just a quick thing to say that Frugal Model Centre are acting as the UK distributors for SMS paints, which is good news. So, means that their availability, certainly within the UK, is going to be that much better. The bottles do come in at around £5.99 each, which you're going to have to weigh that up because, yes, on face value, that's about twice as much as a bottle of Mr. Colour or Tamiya, but then you have to kind of weigh up the volume as well. And these, they are an acrylic lacquer, so you can't brush them. You're going to have to use them through an airbrush and observe, safety protocols, etc., etc. But from my initial kind of test runs with them, I am very, very impressed with them. Just how well they spray. I am going to look forward to trying these out more and more over the next few months and seeing where we go with them. Also quite forgiving. And one thing I was going to say, must remember to say this, was on the Spitfire, that Test Mule Spitfire, I literally threw that paint on there. I just opened the nozzle up and blasted it on there, full on, just to see if I can make it run. No, it just goes on wet to wet edge. And then within a few seconds, it dries. And it's like, I like that.
In terms of the cost, they're 30ml bottles, aren't they? Tamiya bottles are 10ml. So you're getting three times as much for not actually 3 times the cost.
Exactly. Like I say, people might look at that and go, oh, that looks a bit pricey. No, you've got to do your calculations with your volume and everything. But I'm very, very impressed, and I will be using them a lot more in the future. So let us, out of sequence here, but never mind, let us go on to now Tamiya, more Tamiya. And right, we've now actually also now got a copy of their new Panzer IV Aus F. Now, the funny thing is, quite a few people I noticed on the Tamiya magazine page discussing this kit, thinking that confusing this and thinking this is something to do with the Aus D that they did back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I have to say, I also went up to the attic and dragged my D out to have a look to see how many common bits there were between this and this kit. And the answer is 0, because you have to remember that that original D kit, the chassis for that, which comes from about 1975, was the basis for everything they did, from the Brummbär to the Jagdpanzer IV to the mobile wing, all that. So, and the Stugs and everything. So that was where that kit came from. The actual, in fact, I can show you the photograph here. The actual body panel there's the 75 one on the left, and that's the 1994 one on the right. So that's where the kind of like the tub comes from, and most of the running gear. But as far as I can tell, everything else in this kit is completely brand new. So the upper superstructure, everything, turret, all appears to be completely brand new. As you would expect with Tamiya, it is sumptuously molded. Everything is beautifully crisp. It just, it just drips with detail. I mean, look at that. That is just absolutely stunning. And even on some of the smaller parts that, you might think get overlooked, you've got all that beautiful kind of like cast texture on the drive sprockets, on all the pitting. I mean, this is just absolutely top stuff. And there we go. There's as far as I can tell, this is all new stuff now. You get link and length tracks, which sound a bit daunting, but actually to me give you a jig to actually mount them in, so that you can kind of get the sag and the shape and everything right on them. You also get some brand new figures, and the brand new figures are absolutely superb. Have a look at these. I'm trying to find what I've done with the faces. I think I've chopped the faces off on these. Now, here we go. They are absolutely superb. And I think this is the thing from using 3D scans, is that that things don't get over sculpted. So what you end up with are faces sometimes that, I don't want to say imperfect, because these have obviously been scanned off of real people, but you know what I mean? There's a certain kind of imperfection to the scanning, which makes everything look much more realistic. Those are stunning, aren't they? Look at them.
They are. They're really lovely, yeah.
Absolutely amazing. You also get, not quite so good, is the string that they give you for the tow cable. I never got on with that stuff, so I tend to just use braided wire. They also give you some copper wire for some other details. And you have two colour schemes in the kit. One is just overall Panzer Grey, and the other one is in a sand and olive green camouflage. I will be building this in the new year, on top of the 100 million other things I should be building, but I will be doing this in the Panzer Grey, because to me that is just, it's kind of synonymous with this kind of variant, really. But yeah, this is nothing to do with the old D kit. This is pretty much, if you've seen the photographs Tamir put up from the toy fair, you'd have seen the model has kind of like the wheels and the lower hull are all in yellow, and then everything else is in dark grey. That's pretty much the split of what's new and what is recycled or reused in this kit. But yep, I'm really, 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 really impressed with that. I mean, again, just look at that detail.
It made sense for them to rework the Aus J and H kits that they based this one on. Also, they used that kit to produce not only the Wirbelwind, but they also used it to produce the mobile wagon as well, that had the 3.7 on. So the chassis kit has been well used. It made perfect sense to just simply update the kit and or rather backdate the kit to create this version. I agree with you on the Panzer Grey. That's short barreled Panzer IVs. They just look best in grey. There's no two ways about it. I'm certainly, this is a project. I may well run mine alongside yours as well, because today I've just ordered a D kit along with a Sturmgeschütz 4 and a Lang as well, from that era, that 1975 era. I've ordered all three of those kits to run as a kind of a project. And my plan for next year is to build the D and the F almost side by side to see how they look. Noticeably, in the photograph that you had of the two hulls side by side, you can see that the D hull is wider. You can see it in that photograph. They don't look like they're the same, but that is the original J stroke, the H stroke J hull that was produced in the sort of the mid 90s, which started off their brand new family of these Panzer IVs from Tamir. And that chassis is super easy to build as well. It just goes together in about 5 minutes. Very similar to the Hummel. You built the Hummel last year or the year before.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm working on that Hummel now. Very easy to put together those chassis.
And the Brumbear, because I built that as well.
Yeah, and similar with the Lang as well. The new Lang is the same. They don't go in for overly complicated suspension systems. It's one piece. The glues onto the side of the hull, and then the wheels go onto that. They're polycapped on. So this would be a really nice project. It's a great looking vehicle, but those figures, they look brilliant, don't they? They really are fabulous. And I like the fact that one of the figures looks distinctly older than the other.
Yeah,
Well,
this is what I say is that sometimes when you get sculpts, it's a bit like kind of like it's a bit like Peter Cushing in Rogue One. Technically it looks real, but there's always something slightly kind of off about it.
yeah.
But because these have, I think actually it's possibly because there's less detail. Does that make sense?
I think it's because they're smoother. I think it's not that there's less detail on. I think it's because they're not sculpted.
Yeah, they're not over sculpted.
Sharp.
Yeah.
So you have the same smoothness that you would get on an actual figure. Because if you think about it, when a figure is sculpted, it's sculpted with tools, whereas clothes don't fold in the same way that something that's created with the edge of a tool. But the molding and the quality of the folds on the standing figure, that's almost like a single part. That's beautiful. That's really nice, and it will certainly paint up very nicely. You can see it on the trousers there, the way those folds are. They don't have that kind of sharp sort of sculpted look to them. They just fold nicely. Yeah, this is a great kit. I'm really looking forward to having one of these in my hand. I've not really been too bothered about sort of a lot of the other releases, but this, I do like the short barreled Panzer IV. So certainly looking forward to seeing what you come up with this vehicle. That's for sure.
Mud. No, it's Panzer Grey is just one of those things. I get on well with olive drab as a single colour scheme. Panzer Grey, for some reason, I struggle with it, and I don't know why. And this is why last year I made the point of doing two projects where it was all Panzer Grey, which was the P38, the Panzer 38T, which was the then new Tamiya kit, and that Italy Opel Blitz radio truck. Because I thought I am going to work out where I keep going wrong with it and how I can make Panzer Grey look interesting. And I think I've got the formula now. I think I know what it is. And cover your ears, colour purists. I think a lot of it has to do with actually making the colour paler.
Well, I did the same thing with the Flak 37, the 88 that I painted in Panzer Grey earlier on in the summer, and I didn't paint it in Panzer Grey. I painted it in medium sea grey, and once I'd weathered it, and it was all kind of weathered, and I'd added the camouflage and all of that kind of thing, and the shading. I didn't add shading into it, but the shading around the panel lines and that, it looked right to my eye. And that's the problem. I think a lot of people who paint Panzer Grey vehicles make them too dark. In reality, they were very dark. It was a very dark color, and you see it in any photographs, they are very dark. But as models, if you paint them that dark, they just die on the table. So painting them in a paler color is absolutely the right way to do it. Definitely.
Oh, nice bit of trivia here from Juan. He says, in fact, Peter Cushing was a figure modeler. He was, and there is a video out there of him.
Yeah.
With doing his figure modelling. He was a figure modeler and a war gamer. But yeah, Peter Cushing, top bloke. Yeah. Right, shall we move on? Or I was going to try and work a pun there. I was going to say, shilka we move on.
No, let's not do that.
Let's do that one then.
Right, moving on. Zvezda have also released what they call a new kit of the Shilka anti-aircraft platform. That's this thing here, the ZSU 23-4. This is not a new kit. This is actually Dragon's very old kit, and Zvezda have, I guess, sensibly added this to their range to allow modelers to build this vehicle. This kit was first released in 1991, so it's now 30 years old, which as sort of puts it right at the beginning of Dragon's run of kits. It was one of the first kits to appear from their range, and as a result, it is very simple, very simply detailed, and doesn't really offer a lot of finesse or a kind of sort of overblown features that defined their later releases, certainly their World War II German releases. In fact, rather amusingly, when this kit first appeared at the Toy Fair, they'd used a vehicle for their references that had the gun barrels replaced by wooden dowling, for want of a better description. They replicated that in great detail until it was pointed out to them that those weren't the gun barrels. They were simply mocked up for the museum piece that they'd measured. So it sort of didn't get off to a very good start. You can see from the photographs here that this is unlikely to be the kit for a purist. It's likely to be the kit for somebody that simply wants a nice simple build of the Shilka for their collections. There are better kits out there of this vehicle, which, you know, it would be wrong of us not to mention. I think Meng do one which is very nice. So this is unlikely to be pulling up trees, and is unlikely to be the kind of kit that you sort of build with the hope of it being the ultimate replica of this vehicle in 1/35. However, they've added it to the range. They've also offered, it says that it's based on Dragon's kit, but we've looked at Dragon's kit and we think it is just simply Dragon's kit. We can't see that it's based, and it doesn't look like it's been corrected. Perhaps other people closer to the company would be able to tell us whether or not that's the case. I can't see too much in the way of
we
changes.
looked at some sprue shots online of the Dragon kit, and you know, certainly the sprue layout is identical. Might sharpen some stuff up, I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. Maybe they've added a few little details here and there. I think that's unlikely, to be honest. One thing that they have done above and beyond what was supplied by Dragon is that I think there are four color schemes in this kit, which offer a variety of different camouflage finishes. You can see there's 1, 2, 3 on there. And then there's another one for 5, 6 by the looks of things. So there are different versions. So I think this would be a good kit to maybe have as part of a diorama where you've got you know, it could be run alongside something, or where the set piece, in much the same way as the legacy builds that I've been doing, where you're not concerned necessarily with that being the ultimate model, just fits in within a composition. I think this would work pretty well. Do we have a price on this, John? I don't know.
I'm trying to have a quick look up for it at the moment, and I'm not coming up with any prices. Usually Mr. Farmer will pop along and correct us on current price for it, but I'm not getting anything for this at the moment, so we won't comment on price until we actually get a firm figure.
We're not expecting this to be very expensive, though.
No.
Zesda kits kind of aren't, so we're expecting this to be a sort of a reasonable price. I think, you know, with a nice paint job, nice color scheme, and a nice little setting, this could be a cool little project to do. I'm not opposed to that. But being a 1991 iteration of a 2020 iteration of a 1991 Dragon kit, you can probably tell from that what sort of package you're going to get. It makes sense, but
and I think you've also got to bear in mind, as ever, that, you know, this hobby is a broad church, so that, you know, what some people might look at and go, well, you know, it's not for me. There's always going to be somebody out there for whom it is a perfectly acceptable kit. And the one observation I did make today was that I was really quite taken how simplified, not simplified as in crude, but how few parts there were for everything except the tracks. And as you can see in the photographs, the tracks are individual track links, but everything else is, you know, that's a duplicate sprue. There's your upper hull, you've got your lower hull is just in one piece like so, and then you've got just details. And the turret parts as well, which is actually pretty much is all that's there. Yeah. Beyond that almost the majority of the number of parts in this kit is made up by the tracks.
And that's an interesting thing, because if it wasn't for those track links, This kit would be the perfect beginner's kit.
There we go, $29.99.
There we go.
Yeah.
So this would be the perfect beginner's kit, but that sort of elevates it. That elevates it up. But like I say, it's very much of that period for Dragon kits. Like I say, it's going to build. It'll build up. It'll go together. It's fine. It's lacking in a bit of detail.
Room in the market for it, and like I say, it's a broad market. Not everybody wants to build £60 kits that have 1,000,001 pieces to them. So there's always space for classics, and indeed we'll end tonight with another classic. And this, I have to say, this one is so good I haven't actually even queued up the photographs for it yet because of the problems we had this evening with the streaming service. But here we go. We have here an absolute stone cold classic which has been reissued by Italeri, and it is their 35th scale Crusader, which comes back this time with a set of figures. The figures are in fact from Masterbox, and we'll have the photographs up of those in a second. They are really top quality figures. They're from 2010, so I would say they're of the current-ish generation, perhaps slightly behind now because of just the year, being 10 years ago. But they are very well done, very nicely sculpted, and these are sculpts. I don't think these are scans because, say, 2010. But as you can see, the sculpting on them is very, very nicely done.
Yeah,
very
nice.
Very, very sharp. This Italeri kit is, like I say, it's a stone cold classic because pretty much for about the last 4 decades and a half, 45 years or so, it has held its own in the market. There has been nothing to compete with it, save for, you can argue the Airfix 32nd scale kit, but that's, 2 different scales really. You get 3 schemes in there, 2 in just overall sand and a nice one in sand and black, although having read some of Mike Starmer's articles, there is a theory that some of these were actually painted sand and a kind of olive green colour, which is certainly how the reissue of the Airfix kit turned up on Mike's advice for that colour scheme. But some of them undoubtedly were also sand and black as well. As a kit, it still stands up today very well because, as we were saying last week about Italeri's armour kits of this era, they were always high quality. Probably the best kits you could buy of their type, during this era, and that's including, the Tamiya kits of this age as well. And if we just have a look at the, the turret detail, that is still beautifully crisp and sharp. It's still a favourite model of mine. I've kind of built this about 20 odd years ago. Didn't have any problems with it, and it did not disappoint in terms of a modelling experience. And you can see there, this, like I say, this kit is coming up for 45 years old, but that moulded detail is still exceptional. For the age of this kit. Nice decal sheet as well, which, as we can see there, you get 3 schemes, a nice selection of markings, nice mix of kind of markings and colour schemes as well. And again, look at that. That is fabulous for what, 45-year-old kit. I think border models are going to have their work cut out topping this. I've no doubt they will squeeze in more detail and more features that the Italeri kit hasn't got. And like I say, I am looking forward to the border model coming out because I'd like to see, I like the Crusader. I think it's a brilliant tank, but it'd be interesting to see how these compare in terms of manufacturers' approaches, breakdown, and what detail can be incorporated 45 years later. But as I say, this is coming back from Italeri with the Masterbox figures, and that's a pretty good package, to be quite honest with you.
I think this is great, but I've got a very close affinity for this kit because the Italeri Crusader, the 35th kit, was the very first 35th kit I ever made. So I loved it, and it was the gateway kit into 35th scale modeling for me. So to see this reappear is absolutely fabulous. We've spoken on here about our sort of feelings towards these older kits, and Italeri is coming into my and yours, because I know that you've been thinking about it as well. But Italeri's classic range of sort of 70s kits is now coming into my scopes for the next 6 months. So what I've done with the Tamiya 35th scale range, I'm now going to do with the Italeri 35th scale range, and this will be one that I do. And I really fancy the idea of combining this kit with a knocked out Panzer IV in the same way that Shep Payne combined his Grant with a knocked out Panzer IV.
Yeah.
Well, this do the same sort of thing.
This boxing will be heading its way to
Indeed.
you in the new year with a Tamiya Lotus Europa as well. So
indeed, yeah, and it's John's right. It goes together like a charm. Really, it's a really nice kit. And of course they've Italeri have recreated other versions as well from this, including the anti-aircraft gun that was based on this. So yeah, can't wait to get my hands on it actually to have a go at it and see what I can do with it. I'm trying to think how long ago it would have been. Yeah, 40 years, probably 40 years since I last built this kit. So can I do a good job on it 4 years later? Who knows? Trying to think whether I can, but I'm really looking forward to the idea of it, and also stowage, putting loads of stowage on it as well.
Yeah,
that would be very cool.
Yeah, like I say, we had Mr. Farmer has told us that the recommended retail price for this is around £35, which, when you think what the Masterbot figures on their own would be a tenner easily, I
think that's a pretty good package.
I think that's a very good value for money, and it's.
Yeah.
I'm actually rather sad that I have to put that one in the post, because I wouldn't mind building another Italeri Crusader, but hey ho, you can't build everything, and trust me, at the moment it feels like I am building everything. So meant to ask, is JM in his living room or green screen? No, this is green screen, Dave. This is Industrial Light and Magic have worked overtime for me. They've actually stopped work on The Mandalorian and came here, set up this green screen. It's the best digital compositing ever, trust me. Now, I am in the front row. I'll just prove it to Dave. Look, I am actually in the front room. There we go. Some people never happy. Picky all the time. Right. Any other business?
I don't think there is. Is there? There's nothing for us to deal with now, other than to prepare everybody for Wednesday night's show, when at least one of us will have slightly more energy than they've got this evening. Because I think I'm a bit like you were the other week. I think I'm running on about 15%, and that's massively over egging how much energy I've got today. So hopefully by Wednesday I'll have had some sleep, and I'll be a little bit more with it than I am today. But yes, Wednesday nights we are having our end of year soiree. Shenanigans. Mince pies and sherry night.
Mince pies and sherry, definitely. Yeah, yes. And special guests.
And
special guests, yes, indeed. Some of whom we're told may actually dress up for the occasion. I dread to think what's going to happen. But on that note,
do we have to dress up?
I think, best bib and tucker. Let's put a bit of effort in for the boys and girls. Yeah, like I say, folks, it has been absolutely packed. We run out of time again, unfortunately. I was actually thinking tonight that we were going to do, I was thinking of doing a 90-minute show, but frankly, I want to watch Sports Personality of the Year, so 60 minutes. So, on that note, we will see you all on Wednesday for our end of year party. End of term party. You can all bring your games. You don't have to wear uniform, and you can all bring your games into play as well. So there we go. On that note, it just remains for me to say thank you to Mr. P. This has flown by this evening. It has absolutely flown by. A bit like the day, really. It just remains for me to say thank you to everybody for tuning in and watching. Stay wherever you are in the world, stay safe, stay out of trouble, be the good people that I know you really, really are. And we will see you on Wednesday. So for myself and Mr. Pollard, take care and we'll see you then. So bye for now.
See you later.